everyone, my name's Annette and you may know me as Nettersplays, and today I'm going to go over my top 10 games that I am anticipating for Essen. Now Essen is a huge board game convention in Germany and it is held once a year. During this convention a lot of games come out. In fact, this year there's over 1,000 games coming out that are brand new from this convention, and they're released out into the world, into the European market at least. Some of them I won't get to see them until later on in the year, but these are my 10 games that I'm highly anticipating out of 1,000. So I'm only going to cover 1% of the whole set of games coming out, so that's not very much. So I didn't go over all of those games, but based on my likings and the designers and the publishers and such, and I kind of fine-tuned it to what I think I would most be attracted to. So let me get started. One of the games I already have and I already managed to play, so I'm just going to make it an honorable mention. And that game is Clans of Caledonia. So Clans of Caledonia is a game all about economics. It has some area and control in the middle. So what you're trying to do is build farms and build settlements on this map. Everyone is. So there's always a fight for space on the main board. However, you're also trying to manage your resources because you have a market system that is dealt between all players. If players are buying a lot of something, then the price of that thing will go up. So it's a supply and demand market. And the cool thing about that is that I hardly ever see a market system like that, and it's a good way for people to control that market and make things either go up or down depending on, where they see the game is. If other players have a lot of something, well, drop the price down so it won't be as valuable. And that's what I really like about Clans of Caledonia, just figuring out how the economy of a game works. So the number 10 game out of Essen that I'm highly anticipating is Queen Domino. Now Queen Domino is a 2 to 4 player game and it's a standalone, but you can also expand it to last year's big hit, King Domino, and make it more available for more players. The cool thing about Queen Domino is that it plays exactly the same like King Domino. However, it kind of ramps up the strategy and the complexity. And that's what I really am looking forward to. My family loved it, and all my friends that don't necessarily play all these two games, whenever I introduced them to King Domino, they also loved it. So I'm really looking forward to playing Queen Domino because it's supposed to just make it a little bit harder. Coins will be involved, a marketplace will be involved where you can purchase single tiles to cover up other tiles, and then that'll change the end of game scoring. So you have to think a little bit more about what you're purchasing, and also where you're going to place those and what kind of thing you're going to buy from the market. So it makes it a little bit more interesting than just a base game, and that's what I'm looking forward to. So my number 9 game is Transatlantic. Now Transatlantic is a game coming out of Essen that is from famed designer Matt Gertz. Now Matt Gertz designed games like Navigador and Imperial and the famed Concordia. Now he hasn't designed a game in quite some time, so this is a new game that's coming out this year and I'm really looking forward to it. So his games usually involved these elaborate maps that are really well used and applied with the game mechanics. Now I'm a little confused because this game doesn't look like it will have a map, but I'm not too sure. At least I couldn't find a map in the component list. So I don't think there's a map in this game, but it is based off of cards, just like Concordia. You're going to be deck building, so everyone starts with the same 8 cards, and then what you're doing is you're trying to buy ships because you're a shipping company and you're trying to manage the transatlantic system. So the cool thing with that is that it's a very familiar mechanism. However, you're trying to figure out how to place and how to organize these ships and manage their stock. So it becomes more of an economic game, and it's really interesting. It's really appealed to me because of the fact that it's by a famed designer, and also it's a lot of card play, which I really like those type of games. So my number 8 game is Wendake. Now, Wendake is a Native American based strategy game with economics, resource management and such, and action selection. Now, usually when I hear a game about Native Americans or some culture, I'm a little wary about those type of games because I want to make sure that the game is actually representing them respectfully. And this game actually does, because it's during the time of the 7-Year War, and it doesn't actually look at the colonist viewpoint. It actually looks at it in the viewpoint or the perspective of the Native Americans back then. How were they living during that time? Well, they were basically doing their average daily chores, which were gathering and hunting and also trading. But also every now and then they meet up with these white colonists and something goes wrong, like plague or something. And so so that also takes into account into their actual life and their gameplay too on the board. So it's really interesting to see that kind of perspective played out on a game board. But one of the things I'm also really anticipating from this game is the way that the action selection board is played out. So every player is going to have this grid system, and there's going to be 9 tiles on them. And in order to do actions like trading or gathering or hunting or fishing or stuff like that, you have to pick the actions on those tiles. But you can only pick them either in a vertical array or in a horizontal array or even diagonal. And so once you pick those tiles, you do those actions, and then you flip them over, and then they won't become available. You'll slide them all down, the tiles become available, and you can upgrade. And it's just something that I haven't seen before, and I'm really interested in applying that new action selection system, because after playing so many games, it's just really refreshing to see something new and innovative in that kind of way. So that's why Wendake is on this list. So my number 7 game is called Noria. Now, Noria has beautiful artwork. It has an interesting theme. It's supposed to be in a steampunk kind of world, and it's this magical land up in the sky. However, it's ruled by this certain government, and you're trying to have representatives and such there. Really, the game is not theme-based. It's very mechanical. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to kind of upgrade your specific politicians on these different tracks on the main board. And that's how you're going to score points, by gaining the most influence on those tracks. But how do you do that? And that's where the interesting part comes, because what you're doing is you're disc or wheel building. Now this is different and it's completely new. It's a very new idea of how to select your actions, but you have these different wheels and they're layered, so you can move them individually. And these different discs, you can put these tokens onto them, and those tokens will actually tell you what you can do on your turn. So if you align the disc and rotate them in certain ways so that these little tokens are aligned, then you can do several actions on one turn. And you manipulating this round track system, this little rotating disc, and figuring out the puzzle in that, I just really loved it. I thought it was genius. It's a new way of action selection. It's something that I haven't seen before, so I'm really anticipating this game, and that's why it's so high on my list. So my number 6 game is Santa Maria. Now, Santa Maria is on this list because of the designers. These designers made some of my favorite games from last year, like Avenue and Capital Lux. I love those games. So the next thing that they came up with was Santa Maria. Now, Santa Maria is a medium weight game, meaning that it's not super heavy, it's not very strategic, where you're having to do a lot of math and a lot of involvement. Actually, you could play this game in about 45 minutes, it says. So it's supposed to be a little bit lighter and a quicker game. What you're doing is you're rolling dice and you're trying to acquire these different tiles, and these tiles will tell you whether you can go ahead and produce, or you can trade, or you can go up on a track. That's a religion track or the conquest track. And so the way that you roll these dice, and you're drafting these dice, and you're utilizing them, and you're applying them on this grid system, and you're playing these tiles, and you're doing these different actions on the board, doesn't seem too complex because it's only on a 4-page little rule book. So it seems something that you can easily explain to people, you can easily play and get involved with the game itself. It looks really beautiful. I like the artwork in it too. So I'm looking forward to something that's not too heavy, but something I can casually play with people too. So my 5th game that I'm looking forward to is Dinosaur Island. Now, Dinosaur Island is exactly what it sounds. You're making a theme park, and it's going to have dinosaurs inside of it. It's just like Jurassic Park, the board game. However, there's going to be bright neon and squiggly lines, and it's going to look awesome on the table. It's something unlike these other dry Euros that I have, which are very neutral base colors. So I'm looking forward to putting that on my table. But most importantly, dinosaurs. So the cool thing about this park or this game that you're building is that you're trying to manage these dinosaurs on your island, and you're trying to get tourists to come to your island. So you only have 4 phases in the game. This is where the strategy comes into play. This is where you're actually mechanically trying to figure out how to play this game. It's not all theme. That's what I really like. So you are trying to go through 4 phases in each round. The first round is you have to manage the DNA, figure out how to get a certain type of dinosaur. The second phase is where you're purchasing stuff in the market. So you have to purchase types of facilities or hire new people and such. And the third thing is you're trying to place out all the stuff that you just bought and make sure you place your workers in certain areas, and also you're trying to acquire certain security because the dinosaurs might escape and eat all your tourists, because that comes in the 4th round. So if you manage everything else really good, where you have the right type of dinosaurs with the right type of security, and the tourists come, and as long as they don't get eaten, you're doing good. But if the dinosaurs escape, and then you're just going to be in bad luck because you get no money since there's no tourists. So it just sounds like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this game. It's not just theme, but it's also strategy. So definitely looking forward to Dinosaur Island. So the 4th game on this list is Charterstone. Now, Charterstone is by Jamie Stegmaier, and I'm looking forward to this game because it's a legacy game. Now, this is Jamie Stegmaier's first attempt at making a legacy game, and I'm really interested to see how he does it. And the other thing I'm really interested in this game is the fact that it's competitive. So, unlike Pandemic Legacy, that game you're working with a team. You're doing a cooperative game, and you're playing it with other people and kind of trying to figure it out together. And I really don't play those type of games. I like being competitive. I like having to do my own thing and figuring it out myself. And so that's why I'm really looking forward to this game, because it's competitive. Another reason I'm looking forward to it is because it's city building, and you're going to be placing these stickers and doing these different things on the map, and it's going to constantly change. And after it's all done, after you finish the whole campaign, then you can just play that game all over again. In fact, if you turn it over and get a recharge pack, you can play it all over again from the beginning. So that's really cool. Another cool thing about Charterstone is the fact that you start off at an easy level of worker placement. You do certain things, and it's fairly easy. And the more and more you play it, the more complex it becomes. So I'm definitely looking forward to that part as well. So there's just so many points and reasons why I'm really looking forward to Charterstone. game on my list is Agra. Now, Agra is by Michael Keller, who also made La Granja. La Granja is one of my favorite games because it has so many mechanisms involved with it. I just love rolling the dice and getting these cards, and they're all multi-use, and then there's area control. That game is great. But in Agra, there's something else that's there. There's all these other mechanisms involved with action selection, variable players, and what we're doing in the game itself is there's a theme of us being farmers. We grow certain crops, and what we're trying to do is build our region and become famous, have a lot of influence in that region, because the great Emperor Akbar is coming into our area, our region, and he's throwing a famous birthday party, and if we show that we're prosperous by the end of the game, then we win. We win influence there, and he takes notice in us, I guess. But the cool thing with Agra is the fact that you have these different track systems, and this track system is angled. So you have this angled board, and it has this big background platform, and it looks a little gimmicky, but it fits in the theme. It's just something spectacular on the table. It's something I'm really looking forward to play. It also has like all these weird systems of meditation and this rondel type of thing going on in your own farm area, your player board. And it just looks like something that's so meaty. I tried going through the rule book, but it's so thick and heavy, I just would spend days in it because it's a lot to go over. It's a very heavy game from what I hear, so it's something that I'll have to digest eventually and try to figure out how to master that game eventually, just like Lisboa turned out to be. So that's why I'm really looking forward to Agra. I feel like it's that one big heavy game of the year that I'm really looking forward to diving into. So the second game I'm really looking forward to is called Altiplano. Now, Altiplano is a game about being a farmer, and you have alpacas on your farm. You're a freaking alpaca farmer. This is something I've always wanted in a game. So finally, the game is out there, and I have to have it. It's just something I'm really looking forward to. The other thing is that it's also by not just any designer, but it's a designer that I really enjoy. He made the game called Orleans. And Orleans is a game by bag building, where you're reaching into a bag and you have these workers or these tokens that you're pulling out, and those workers get to do certain things. And those actions are played onto a board. And so same thing is going on here, except you're a farmer. So instead of going into your bag and pulling out workers, you're actually pulling out resources, goods. You're using those goods in order to trade. And then you're going and doing different things on those spaces, on those locations. So you can trade stuff in for other stuff, you can sell them and get some money, you can buy some other stuff. It's all about managing your resources. It seems like a great game besides the theme itself, because the theme is just wonderful. But the game, there's an actual game behind it, and that's what I really like, because it's not a simple thematic kind of game of you being an alpaca farmer. It's a strategic game too, so I'm really looking forward to having my actual alpaca farm. The one thing I'm not looking forward to is selling my alpaca and trading it in as food. I'm not looking forward to that, but I'm gonna go get over it because I'm gonna have my own alpaca farm, and that's awesome. So definitely looking forward to Altiplano. So my number one game, without a doubt, is Merlin. Merlin is by Stefan Feld. He's one of my favorite. He is actually my favorite board game designer. He's coming out with this one game, and I'm really looking forward to it because he's actually using a rondel. So he has the tendency of getting one mechanism and trying to figure out and how to interpret it and come up with something new. Now, he's applying the rondel mechanism in this game, and it's thematic too, because it's placed during the time of the medieval period with the round table and the sword in the stone and the wizard Merlin. So you have these different knights that are moving around a circle, and you can move them only in one direction. Your own knight can go clockwise. And you also have this one figure on that table, which is Merlin. And every player can actually use that Merlin character. And you can move them not only clockwise, but also counterclockwise. So you can move them in different directions. Wherever that person lands, whether it be Merlin or the knight, you get to do an action. These actions are different, like hiring henchmen or doing these different actions on the board. And you get to manage it by rolling these dice. You roll these dice, and that's going to tell you how far you can go from one spot to another. Not only do you have the round table that you're moving around in a circle by rolling the dice, you also have your own player board, which is representing a castle that you live in. And these different traders are trying to jump the walls, so you have to make sure you have enough shields, or you can attack them too. So that's interesting because it becomes a little bit more interactive with your own player board. Another cool thing too is that there's an off board on the side, which is representing the region around where you guys all live. And you're trying to gain influence on that board as well. And so you have this rondel, you have these different interactions with your own player board, you have this area control system, you have all these different mechanisms, and it's dice are also involved, dice rolling. So it just seems like something that will satisfy me in the sense of just having all these mechanisms and figuring out how to solve these puzzles like every turn. So I'm definitely looking forward to this game. It's number 1 on my list because of the designer. I know he's going to produce something really good. So definitely I'm going to look forward to getting my hands on Merlin. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope something on this list popped out at you. So the cool thing about this is that if you weren't attracted to any of the games that I listed, well, that's okay, because there's 1,000 more games coming out of Essen. The other thing is that even though I'm not going to Essen, that's also okay because these games usually come into the American market later in the year. I also kickstarted and backed some of these games, so I'm going to get them also in the next couple of weeks or so. I'm going to BGG Con, so I pre-ordered a lot of games and I'll pick them up there. So I'm just so excited for this time of year because all these brand new games come up. All the hobbyists, all the gamers are just really excited during this time. And so why don't you share your excitement and tell me what you're interested in? What is a game that you're looking forward to and why? So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye!